Linear functions. I wonder what linear means. Let's sketch some and see. So our lesson opener, they want us to plot these 2 points and sketch a line between them. So why don't you pause, take a moment, do that while I do that. Okay, do yours look like mine? As it leads us into this next question, it starts to talk about slope, because right, these are straight lines, so linear functions must mean straight lines. So slope measures the steepness of a line. Calculate the slope for each line by looking at the vertical and horizontal change between the points. Think of a slope triangle. So let's look here. So vertical change between the points. All right, so I'm gonna work from this point to this point so I can kind of draw this triangle in here. So the vertical change, I'm heading up. Looks like I head up about 5. So my vertical change is gonna be 5. And then my horizontal change, so that's this direction. So as I travel to this point, completing that slope triangle, right? I travel over 3. Miss Peer, where am I getting that 5 and that 3?
Well, we know that we can calculate that, and I'm sure you've done this before, but let's really make that connection. So we have our point up here, which is at 4, 7, and the point here at 1, 2. And if we're talking vertical change, of course we meant this, and Miss Ryan went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and just counted, because why wouldn't you do that? But let's say we don't have the line and we just have the 2 points. Well, how did we get 5? Well, let's take a look at the y-coordinate, because we're talking the vertical change, y-axis, right? So that would be, well, sure enough, 7 minus 2. So if I went and labeled these points x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2, then basically what I'm saying is to get the vertical change, do y sub 2 minus y sub 1. And you can see where this is going. So how did I get 3? Well, I have a guess. It's going to be the same idea. The x-coordinate minus the x-coordinate of the 2 points, because now I'm talking about horizontal change. So of course, 4 minus 1 is 3. Where did that 4 come from? Right here. So x sub 2 minus x sub 1. I'm going to let Miss Ryan tag back in.
Wow, okay, so if we want to write down the slope formula, slope we refer to as m, it looks like it's the vertical change over the horizontal change, so I'm just going to write that. So it's really the change in the y over the change in x. So we have this cool little symbol we can use called delta. So delta y means change in y over delta x. So, you know, just if you want to look real smart sometimes. So then we can match that up to what Mrs. Peart was talking about. So we've got our y sub 2 minus our y sub 1 for our change in y, divided by our x sub 2 minus x sub 1 for our change in x.
We graphed 2 lines, so let's double check that other line. You'll see that I went ahead and made a slope triangle. Always going from left to right is usually best. And I want to go ahead, and this time I'm just going to count down. So I'm counting down 5, 6, 7, 8. So I went down. Down would indicate like a negative. And then I went over positive 1, 2, 3, 4. So already I know that the change in y over the change in x is negative 8 over 4, negative 2. But let's check that with our y sub 2 minus y sub 1. So we have our x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. And let's do m equals negative 3 minus 5 over, divided by 3 minus negative 1. So minus a negative is plus, and I get negative 8 over 4. It's always nice when it comes together and works out the way it's supposed to. So m, or slope, equals negative 2 because it's falling. So now we've seen how we got the slope formula, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. You know that change in y over change in x. Let's go ahead and have you practice, and please do take time to practice. You might be going, I know this, I did it in Algebra 1. Yeah, well then prove it, it won't take you too long. It will be helpful sometimes to go x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. The other thing is, does it matter which one is your first point and which one is your second point? It actually doesn't matter whatsoever. So if you wanted to flip-flop them and try, you're welcome to. But go ahead, pause the video, do A, B, and C, and we'll come back in and check answers.
Okay, let's see how you did. So for A, it looks like we've got our change in y over our change in x, and I got m equals 2. Did you get m equals 1/2? Then you're mixing up your x's and your y's. Remember, it's gotta be the change in y, that vertical change on top, divided by my horizontal change. For B, this one had something a little weird happen. So the correct answer is m equals negative 5/2. So be careful, because see this 4 right here? When I'm doing minus negative 4 minus a negative 4, those double negatives become a plus. So that's why this reads as plus 4. So just keep your eye out for that. Then my last one, I don't even have an answer for yet, because look what happened in my denominator. I have negative 7 over 0. Oh my gosh, I'm dividing by 0. What do I do?
Hello, thou shalt not divide by 0. That is one of our math commandments. So I want you to always remember that. If I ever start it, thou shalt not, what do you say? Divide by zero. Say it. Thou shalt not.
Divide by zero.
All right, let's go. So for this, when we're talking about slope specifically, we say the slope is undefined. And really, if we take a quick snapshot, if we think about this, the x is 9, the x is 9. If we went to graph this, we'd be over here at 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we'd have 3 and -4. All of a sudden, it'd be a vertical line. It's not a function.
Wow, so undefined slopes mean I have a vertical line. Okay, well let's check out this next section. Here we have 4 graphs and they're asking us to match the correct description, positive slope, negative slope, zero slope, or undefined slope to the correct graph. Okay, so for this first graph, I have kind of this, slanted linear line, right? So my way of telling if I have a positive or negative slope, I kind of just always draw a little car on the leftmost part of my graph. And I try to put myself in that car. And I'm like, okay, right here, if I press on the gas, is my car gonna start rolling up a hill or down a hill? Well, if I press on my gas right here, my car starts rolling down a hill. So that means I have a negative slope. So I'm gonna write negative slope here. Okay, this next one, hey, that's a vertical line. So what did we just learn? That's an undefined slope. Okay, here I have a horizontal line. Well, what do you think happens to a horizontal line? What's my slope? What's my rise? I'm rising 0. There is no rise, so my slope is 0. So this last one, I've got this slope. Okay, I'm gonna put my car on the leftmost part of my graph, press on the gas, and I start rolling uphill. So this one is a positive slope. So if I'm going downhill, negative slope, uphill, positive slope.